Good afternoon. Today's presentation is on Oasis, transitional housing facility, and I'll go ahead and start the presentation. All right, Oasis, as an overview, is a transitional housing facility. It provides temporary housing for persons transitioning back into society. Most of them, the persons have come from some sort of drug rehabilitation program, whether it was court mandated or voluntary. Oasis provides a safe environment for clients so they can begin to build a foundation for recovery. They emphasize goal setting to encourage self-actualization, and it directs clients towards community resources for return to work or school. The current situation at Oasis, after talking with the owner, there's no system in place right now to track clients' job search work or work attendance. And there's no system in place to teach budgeting or savings retention. Meeting attendance is really based on the honor system. There's no defined timeline for transition for a self-sustaining lifestyle. In other words, they're just hoping that people go to meetings, 12-step support meetings, and they're also having trouble tracking people when they're going for job search, if they're working, if they're not working, and that's very important. The stakeholders in this situation, obviously the clients that are trying to transition back into society, into a clean living, the families and spouses and children of those persons, the support staff that run Oasis, management and ownership because of attrition rates and the inability to monitor what their clients are doing, and overall the society and public are a stakeholder because of the simple fact that if these people return to society unprepared, they can become a burden once again. The opportunities for the clients, the client needs they need employment sufficient to become self-sustaining. It doesn't have to be the job, it just has to be a job so they can pay their rent, pay their bills, and begin to climb out of debt if that's the case. Some of their other needs are balanced recovery-based lifestyle, a solid support network, that is achieved through 12-step programs and fellowshipping with other persons in recovery, and they need to set some achievable goals. Some of the risks for the clients, sorry about that, some of the risks for the clients while they're in transition and before they get to an independent living situation, of course, the number one is substance abuse relapse. That is probably the biggest fear and the biggest risk. Some of the other risks that may be involved are unmanageable lifestyles due to undeveloped life skills. A lot of addicts and alcoholics don't necessarily have all the healthy, manageable skills to succeed in society. They run the risk of possible incarceration or a return to jail or prison because of a relapse or behaviors associated with relapse. They run a risk of unemployment, homelessness, dereliction, or becoming a societal burden because of unemployment or homelessness. And of course, ultimately, the biggest risk is death from overdose or crime-related death because of a return to relapse or return to use of substances. The staff and management here at Oasis, some of their needs, they need to process to encourage financial responsibility. Unfortunately, when persons are in active addiction, they're not necessarily financially responsible. They tend to live hand to mouth, paycheck to paycheck. Money usually tends to go to their substance of choice, bills, and financial obligations usually come second. This is something that takes practice to reverse. Some of the other needs for the management is the ability to monitor clients' progression in recovery, to kind of get a tab on where they're at, what they're doing, to ensure that they're progressing in a healthy way. Staff also needs a simple, effective means of monitoring the job search and school enrollment for these clients. Right now, as I said earlier, they have no way to measure what the clients are doing or not doing. And management also needs to minimize client attrition rate. When these clients are not working or they fail to keep a job, obviously they're not able to pay their rent. So the attrition rate is going up. You can't pay rent, they can't stay. And they also need to maintain revenue through a client rent payment. So those go hand in hand, obviously. If people aren't able to stay and they're not able to pay their rent, then obviously revenue is going to go down for Oasis. So we have a workable solution, rather simple. First solution is to set up a savings program for clients that staff control. A lot of clients, when they're coming out of rehabilitation, do not have any kind of savings or substantial amount of money put away that would enable them to go right directly to independent living. My idea was set up a savings program that would be controlled by the staff. Basically, the clients would contribute a percentage of their paycheck every week into an account that was accessible only by staff. After a certain amount of time, when the client was ready to transition, they will have an accumulated amount of money in there that will assist them in gaining independent living, whether it's paying deposits or first month rent or whatever they may need to use that money for. One of my other solutions was a job search and school enrollment verification. It's a very simple program. All it is really is a document. It's setting up a template for a document, have the clients fill out their job search that they do throughout the course of a week, who they applied with, what they applied for, what they were doing, the possibility of return interviews. It's simply to keep a tab on what the clients are doing when they're out job searching. And the reason for this is not simply to nudge them or push them in the direction of finding work. It's another tool for the staff to see if the person's trying to overreach for a job. It kind of gives the staff an outlook as to what the client is looking for, what are they trying to do. It'll allow the staff to assist them also. If sometimes clients have the problem of a record or maybe even low skills, if they're searching in the wrong places for jobs or they're searching above their skill level, maybe the staff can see that in the system. The final idea was a 12-step meeting sign-in attendance record. Personally, this is probably the most important. 12-step meetings, whether it's AA, NA, CA, it doesn't really matter. It would apply to whatever that person's substance of choice was. That's the backbone of a recovery process. Attending meetings on a regular basis builds accountability and teaches commitment. It also helps strengthen fellowship with other recovering addicts or alcoholics, and allows for a stronger foundation in recovery. The materials for this whole thing are rather simple. I put this on here simply to give you kind of a financial or investment look at what these solutions would cost. It's real simple. The job search or the meeting list would just simply use copy paper and a suitable Word document layout found on any computer. The client savings account, it may need a initial cash deposit for a bank account. A commercial account may not need that if the company already has one established in that bank. It would need suitable software for documentation and record keeping for the clients as well as staff, and it would have a simple time investment for policy or process development. The policy would probably be rather straightforward, simply a system of receipts and deposits, and that would allow the clients to help keep track of their own money. Timeline development. Basically, the timeline was an idea for trying to give the clients a 12-month timeline for the savings as well as the meetings. It's basically a time investment for policy. That's all it is, really. Implementation. To get this done, it's a simple process of actually just making some documents. To implement it will take some more time as far as a time investment for staff. There are a couple of different ideas that we could use to make this happen. We could use current staff to supervise or enforce a new policy, which is probably what will happen. We could create a new position and promote from within, create something of a client manager position that would monitor all this activity as well as other duties. They could hire an additional person to monitor the new program. This would probably be a great idea, but the cost involved may be prohibitive. Or we could use what's called a trusted senior client or a house manager. That usually works for some documentation. Unfortunately, it wouldn't be useful or it wouldn't be advised for handling clients' money. There have been cases where house managers don't always pan out to be the most integrity-worthy individuals. So my recommendation really would use the current staff to supervise or enforce the documentation and new policy. The benefits for this program: the documentation of the 12-step meetings would provide accountability. It would teach responsibility. It would help build their integrity. It would develop a support network. It would raise their self-esteem, strengthen their recovery mindset, ease their transition back into society, and help develop life skills. The emphasis on the accountability and responsibility as well as the support network is really the key. By having the clients fill out a sign-up sheet for meetings, they build a habit of going to the meetings, number one. Secondly, they build up a network. While they're attending the same meetings weekly, they become accountable. They start seeing the same faces there, and so those people start seeing them. They become people start holding them accountable for not just to their behavior, but for their appearance, for showing up. This usually leads to service work. It leads to stronger ties to the community as well as the recovery community. And it also helps build self-esteem. They start feeling better. They feel like they belong to these groups. Then after a while, they want to be there instead of have to be there. That's really the main push for this whole 12-step meeting attendance. The risk to OASIS and the clients, mainly to OASIS right now, is a higher attrition rate. The more rules you have, obviously, the more possible violations you could have. That would lead possibly to a higher attrition rate. With the clients could perceive a lack of trust by the staff, making them go to meetings, making them document their meeting list. It could also lead to false progress. The staff could see on paper that an individual is going to meetings and that they are searching for work. There is a trend at times to have friends or acquaintances sign paperwork, sign off that they are going to meetings and turning those in. The problem there is it would appear to staff that this person's progressing, but they really are not. That's a major risk. That's not really a large percentage of the people. Those are usually people who have sent by the court or just haven't chose to be in a recovery lifestyle on their own. It's been chosen for them. One of the other risks is an overdependence upon the staff. After a while of having someone hold their money and ensuring that they're going to meetings and going to work, some may develop a dependence on that supervision and not be able to begin to transition to their own self-discipline and supervising of themselves. And as I said before, more rules, more violations. That's entirely possible, but it's certainly something that could work as long as everything is being taken care of. My recommendations for OASIS were implement a policy of documenting 12-step meeting attendance. That's rather straightforward. As it shows in the report, there's more good than could ever get bad out of attending 12-step meetings, and documenting the 12-step meetings will basically give them a forced accountability. They will have to go to meetings until they want to go to meetings, and this will build the very foundation for which their recovery relies on. Secondly, I would like to implement a job search documentation and verification. All that simply does is allows the staff to see what they're doing as far as job search. Where are they searching? Are they searching below their means? Are they searching above their means? Do they have the skills for the jobs that they're looking for? And with that tool, the staff and others can help the clients find the appropriate employment to help pay their bills and take care of themselves, and hopefully transition into an independent living situation in a short amount of time. Thirdly, I put document education enrollment and financial aid verification. That was an addition, and it's really not something that's common. There are some clients who begin education, and that is simply to verify that they are going to school and they are getting some sort of financial aid. There was a phenomenon of some people saying they were starting school, but there was no financial aid or financial responsibility going on. They were having struggles paying their rent and bills. That's simply a case of getting hold of the school and making sure that those persons are in school. And if they are not in school, we would certainly put them back to implementing a job search. And lastly, provide a client savings program to facilitate the transition for personal housing. The savings program, not everyone is going to need it. There are some clients who come out of the rehabilitation facilities that have had careers, or they may be coming from a position of wealth, whether it's theirs or family, and they may not need this sort of service. This service is set up for those who may have no savings, no banking, no career. This would be a way for them to save up the money. It's really cheap to get this started for them. I think it would help individuals learn the value of saving money and putting things away. It would help plant the seed for learning how to budget their own finances, and it would hopefully put an end to the hand-to-mouth, week-to-week financial living. In conclusion, instituting this policy change will benefit OASIS as well as our clients. It's really simple. It requires very little in the way of investment. Simply, most of the documents can be made on Microsoft software within less than an hour, and copies can be made very cheaply. The policies will empower the resident. It's not about using authority to have them do what you want. It's about empowering them to make positive changes, to build positive habits, to lay that foundation for an ease in the transition to society. It's extremely important for recovering addicts and alcoholics to learn to not only reach out, but to transition themselves, to get ready for independent living instead of living in a dependent lifestyle. Learning how to take care of themselves, learning how to take care of their bills, their responsibilities. Sometimes it takes a while for them, but the thing is this process here will help at least initiate that and help them transition back to society and become a productive member of that society. Thank you. And that's the end of the OASIS presentation. I haven't talked to the owner yet as far as getting this presentation in front of him. We're working on that now. I was working in close coordination with Bert as well as Elizabeth Rice, who is a counselor that helped me with this, and that's the end of the presentation. If there's any questions, you email me. Thank you.